Imagine this. You're standing in a place where time stopped. The air is thick with dust, the walls are peeling, and every creak feels like a whisper from someone, or something, watching you. Abandoned places aren't just empty. They're alive with secrets. And sometimes, those secrets don't want to stay buried. Tonight, I'm diving into 5 true horror stories from abandoned locations that will make your skin crawl. These aren't just ghost stories. These are real accounts from real people who walked into these places and came out changed, or didn't come out at all. From a cursed hospital in Ohio to a forgotten manor in Scotland, these stories will keep you up all night. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's step into the shadows. But before we start, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because you don't want to miss what's coming. And trust me, you'll want someone else watching with you. Let's get into it. Before we dive into our first story, I need to share something personal to set the mood. A few years ago, I was dumb enough to take a dare and explore an abandoned factory on the outskirts of my hometown. It was one of those places kids whispered about. Haunted, they said, but I didn't buy it. Just a pile of rust and concrete. Right? Wrong. The moment I stepped inside, the air changed, heavy, like it was pushing me out. My flashlight kept flickering, and then I heard it. A laugh, low and guttural, from the darkness. I was alone, but I felt eyes on me, like someone was standing just out of sight. I bolted, didn't look back, but that feeling, it clung to me for weeks. It's why I chase these stories, why I need to know what lingers in places the world forgot. Tonight we're starting with one of the most infamous abandoned places in America, a hospital so haunted, it's become a legend. Let's step into the shadows of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. But first, a quick heads up. This video is long, packed with details, because you deserve the full, chilling truth. Stick with me, and I promise you'll be checking your locks by the end. If you're new here, welcome to the creepiest corner of YouTube. Hit that like button if you're ready, and let's get started. Story 1. The Silent Halls of Waverly Hills. Sanatorium. Waverly Hills Sanatorium isn't just a building. It's a monument to human suffering, a place where hope went to die. Built in 1910 in the rolling hills of Louisville, Kentucky, it was designed as a beacon of salvation during the tuberculosis epidemic, a disease so brutal it was called the White Plague. Its sprawling halls, lined with sunny verandas, were meant to heal the sick, to give them fresh air and a fighting chance. But by the time Waverly closed its doors in 1961, over 60,000 souls had perished within its walls, some choking on their own blood, others broken by experimental treatments that were more torture than cure. When antibiotics made sanatoriums obsolete, Waverly was abandoned, left to rot in the Kentucky wilderness. But locals say it's never been empty. The screams, the shadows, the presence, they linger, waiting for anyone foolish enough to step inside. Our first story comes from a group of urban explorers who visited Waverly in 2018 and walked into a nightmare they can't escape. To understand the horror of Waverly Hills, you need to step back to the early 20th century, when tuberculosis was a relentless killer. It wasn't just a disease, it was a curse, attacking the lungs, leaving victims gasping, their bodies wasting away until they were little more than skin and bone. There were no antibiotics, no vaccines, no mercy. The only treatment was isolation, shipping the sick to sanatoriums far from civilization, where they'd live out their days in quarantine, often never seeing their families again. Waverly was one of these places, built on a hill to catch the breeze. Its design based on the idea that fresh air could starve the bacteria. It was a city unto itself, 400 beds, a farm to grow food, a post office, a school for the children born to patients, even a barber shop. But it was no haven. The mortality rate was staggering. Some historians estimate 1 death every hour at its peak, the bodies piling up faster than they could be buried. The death toll was a problem, not just for the staff, but for the patient's morale. Families didn't want to know how bad it was, and the hospital needed to keep hope alive, however faint. So they built the death tunnel, a secret passage running from the morgue to a loading area outside, hidden from view. Day and night, orderlies wheeled bodies through that tunnel, the gurneys rattling, the sheets stained with blood and sweat. It was efficient, discreet, but it came at a cost. The tunnel wasn't just a conveyor of the dead, it was a pipeline of despair, soaking up the fear and pain of those final journeys. Some say it trapped those emotions, turning the tunnel into a psychic wound that still bleeds. Visitors report feeling suffocated in there, hearing whispers, seeing shadows that don't match their own. The treatments at Waverly were as brutal as the disease. Doctors tried anything to save lives, or at least to seem like they were trying. Pneumothorax, collapsing a lung to rest it, was common, but it often killed the patient. Thoracoplasty, removing ribs to ease breathing, was even worse, leaving survivors disfigured, their chests caved in. Patients were exposed to freezing air on open porches, their blankets stiff with frost, in hopes the cold would shock the bacteria. Some were strapped to beds and blasted with ultraviolet light, their skin blistering. None of it worked for most. A 1915 report, uncovered in the Louisville archives, estimated only 10% of Waverly's patients left alive. The rest were wheeled to the morgue, their names scratched off the ledger, their families often never notified. By the 1940s, Waverly's mission had shifted. It wasn't just a TB hospital anymore. It was a dumping ground for society's outcasts. The mentally ill, the disabled, even children with minor behavioral issues were sent here, labeled feeble-minded and forgotten. The staff, overworked and underpaid, turned to darker methods. Lobotomies were performed in the basement, often without anesthesia, the patient's screams echoing through the halls. Electroshock therapy was routine, leaving some catatonic, others dead. Untested drugs were injected, causing hallucinations, seizures, even heart failure. A 1952 whistleblower report, buried until the 1980s, described patients left in restraints for days, some starved, others beaten by orderlies. One nurse's diary found in a storage room read, "I hear them crying at night, but I can't help them all. God forgive us." The walls are listening. Then there's room 502, the epicenter of Waverly's darkest legend. In 1928, a nurse named Mary Hillenberg was found dead there, hanged from a pipe in the ceiling. The official report called it suicide, but the details didn't add up. Mary was 29, well-liked, dedicated to her patients. Hospital gossip, recorded in a co-worker's letter, claimed she was pregnant by a doctor, a married man who worked in the surgical ward. When she told him, he abandoned her, threatening to ruin her if she spoke out. Some say the shame drove her to take her own life. Others whisper she was murdered to keep her silent, her body staged to look like suicide. The truth is lost, but her spirit isn't. Visitors to room 502 report hearing a woman's lullaby, soft and broken, as if sung to an unborn child. Doors slam with no wind, shadows move in the corners, and EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, capture voices saying, "Help me. Stay." Or most chillingly, the names of those present. Since its abandonment, Waverly has become a pilgrimage, site for urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill seekers. The current owners, who bought it in 2001, run nighttime tours, but even they have rules. Don't go alone, don't taunt the spirits, and stay out of the death tunnel unless you're prepared. Locals avoid the place, claiming the hills themselves are cursed, the air thick with unease. In 2001, a groundskeeper quit after seeing a woman in white on the roof, her gown billowing in a windless night. In 2010, a Louisville newspaper ran a feature, Waverly's Wraiths, citing dozens of sightings, patients in hospital gowns wandering the halls, children playing in empty wards, a doctor with hollow eyes standing in the surgical wing. 2015 report by the Kentucky Paranormal Society logged over 500 incidents, from footsteps to physical scratches. This is the world our urban explorers stepped into, thinking they were ready. They weren't. Meet Jake, Sarah, Ethan, and Mia, 4 friends in their early 20s, bonded by a shared obsession with urban exploration. They'd conquered their share of abandoned sites, a rusting factory in Dayton, Ohio, where the machines still hummed faintly. A shuttered school in Indianapolis, its chalkboards covered in cryptic equations. Even a crumbling prison in West Virginia, where the cells smelled of despair. But Waverly Hills was their holy grail, the ultimate test of their courage. On October 27, 2018, they piled into Jake's beat-up Jeep Cherokee, a 3-hour drive, from Cincinnati stretching ahead. Adrenaline pumped through them, mixed with a nervous excitement that buzzed like static. Jake, the de facto leader, was a film student with a knack for storytelling, his GoPro always rolling, capturing every moment with a mix of bravado and charm. Sarah, his girlfriend, was the cautious one, her flashlight sweeping every shadow, her eyes wide with both fear and determination. Ethan, the group's skeptic, was a biology major who scoffed at ghost stories but lived for the thrill of trespassing. Mia, the quiet artist, sketched the places they explored in a leather-bound notebook, her drawings hauntingly detailed. Tonight, though, she was on edge, clutching her notebook like a talisman, her eyes darting to the darkness. The air inside Waverly was thick, heavy with the smell of mildew, wet plaster, and something sour, like old bandages left to fester. Their flashlights struggled against the darkness, the beams swallowed by the vastness of the halls, as if the sanatorium was drinking the light. The silence was oppressive, a living thing that pressed against their eardrums, broken only by the drip of water from a leaking pipe, each drop echoing like a heartbeat in a dying chest. Jake led them up a staircase, its wooden steps sagging, groaning under their weight, the handrail sticky with decades of grime. Graffiti covered the walls, tags like "Ghosts Are Real," "Run," and "Mary Sees You." But some markings were older, etched in a script none of them recognized, jagged and deliberate, like a warning. They were headed for the 4th floor, home of the Death Tunnel Ward, and room 502, where the stories were thickest and the danger deepest. Jake narrated into his GoPro, his voice steady but forced, trying to keep the mood light. "This is it, guys," he said. "Waverly Hills, the big leagues. Let's make history." As they climbed to the 4th floor, Sarah froze, her flashlight trembling in her hand, its beam shaking like a leaf. She swore she heard footsteps behind them, not loud, but deliberate, like someone was matching their pace, staying just out of sight in the stairwell below. Ethan snorted, rolling his eyes, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "It's just the building settling, Sarah? Or what, you think it's a ghost?" But his voice cracked, betraying a flicker of doubt. They stopped, holding their breath, their flashlights pointed down the stairwell, its steps vanishing into blackness. The footsteps continued. Step, step, step. Slow, heavy, echoing with a weight that felt human but wrong, like boots filled with water. Jake swung his GoPro around, its night vision mode casting an eerie green glow across the peeling walls. The stairwell was empty, but the footsteps didn't stop, growing closer, now joined by a faint scraping, like nails on concrete. They pressed on, nerves fraying like old rope, their banter replaced by tense whispers. The 4th floor was colder, unnaturally so, their breath clouding in front of them despite the mild October night outside. Mia whispered, her voice barely audible, that it felt like walking into a meat locker, the air clinging to their skin, heavy with a chill that sank into their bones. The Death Tunnel Ward was a maze of narrow halls, the walls stained with water damage that formed shapes, faces with hollow eyes, hands reaching, mouths open in silent screams, shifting in the eye, flickering light of their flashlights. Jake's GoPro glitched, its screen stuttering, the battery draining from 80% to 20% in minutes. For a split second, the screen showed a figure, a woman in a white gown, standing at the end of the hall, her head tilted at an unnatural angle, her arms hanging limp, her fingers twitching. When they looked up, the hall was empty, but the air grew heavier, pressing against their chests, making each breath a struggle. Panic clawed at them like a living thing. Ethan, the skeptic, broke the silence, his voice tight, almost angry. "We should turn back. This place is messing with us." Sarah was frozen, staring at the spot where the figure had been, whispering, "Did you see her? Did you see her?" Mia clutched Jake's arm, her nails digging into his jacket, muttering about a feeling of being watched, like eyes boring into the back of her skull, unblinking and hungry. Jake, trying to keep control, replayed the GoPro footage, his hands shaking. The woman was still there, her face blurred, her gown stained with what looked like blood or soot, her eyes black voids that seemed to pull at the light. They argued, their voices bouncing off the walls, Ethan shouting to leave, Sarah begging to stay and understand, Mia silent but trembling, her eyes darting to every shadow. That's when the footsteps returned. Louder now, closer, coming from multiple directions, like a crowd closing in, their steps uneven, dragging. They ran, their flashlights bouncing wildly, beams cutting through the dust-choked air, illuminating. Fragments of the ward, rusted IV stands, shattered vials, a faded sign reading "Quarantine." The corridors seemed to twist, doors they'd passed now closed, others ajar that hadn't been before, revealing glimpses of empty rooms or worse, shapes in the darkness, too vague to name. The walls felt alive, the graffiti pulsing in their peripheral vision, the words "Mary sees you" appearing on a wall that had been blank moments before. Sarah screamed, her voice raw, saying she felt something breathing on her neck, cold, wet, like a dog's nose, but sharp, like teeth grazing her skin, leaving a sting that burned. Ethan tripped over a gurney, his flashlight skittering across the floor, its beam landing on something chilling. A pair of bare feet, gray and bruised, the skin cracked like old leather, standing just beyond the gurney, motionless. He didn't look up, didn't want to see the face, didn't want to know what was attached to those feet. He scrambled to his feet and ran, the others close behind, their breaths ragged, their footsteps pounding. They stumbled into room 502 by accident, their panic leading them through a door they hadn't noticed, its frame warped, its hinges rusted. Every Urban Explorers forum swore room 502 was always locked, bolted from the outside, inaccessible without a key the owners kept under guard. But this door was ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning. They hesitated, their flashlights shaking, but the footsteps behind them, now a cacophony like a mob, pushed them inside. The room was small, claustrophobic, its walls stained with watermarks that looked like claw marks in the dim light, jagged and deep, as if something had tried to escape. A rusted bed frame sat in the corner, its springs exposed like ribs, its mattress rotted to black sludge. Above it, a frayed rope dangled from the ceiling, its fibers creaking softly, swaying slightly despite the still air, as if moved by an unseen hand. Mia whispered, her voice breaking, that it felt like walking into a spiderweb, the air thick with invisible threads that clung to her skin, pulling at her hair, her clothes. Ethan's flashlight died completely, plunging them into near darkness. Their only light Jake's fading GoPro and Sarah's trembling beam, which flickered like a dying star. Then they heard it. The lullaby. It wasn't coming from one spot. It was everywhere, seeping from the walls, the floor, the ceiling, wrapping around them like a shroud, suffocating and cold. The melody was simple, almost childlike, but wrong, the notes bending into dissonance, sharp and jagged, like a song sung through broken teeth. Sarah started crying, clutching Jake's arm, her flashlight shaking so badly it cast wild shadows that looked like figures dancing on the walls. Mia, her voice barely audible, said it was Mary, the nurse, singing to her unborn child, her grief trapped in the room, her pain a living thing that filled the air. Jake's GoPro was still recording, and later when they reviewed the footage, it showed something that still haunts them. A figure in a nurse's uniform, her face blurred, standing in the corner of room 502. She wasn't moving, just watching. Her head tilted at an impossible angle. Her eyes black voids that seemed to swallow the light. Her hands clasped in front of her, fingers twitching like spider legs. The footage flickered, her form glitching, appearing closer in each frame, though the group hadn't moved. They bolted, the lullaby chasing them down the halls, its melody twisting into a wail, sharp and piercing, like a mother's grief turned to rage. The footsteps were back, now a deafening cacophony, like a mob of the dead pursuing them, their boots thudding, their breaths rasping. Jake's GoPro caught glimpses of the nurse in every frame, always closer, her gown trailing like smoke, her fingers reaching, almost brushing their backs. The corridors stretched, the exits vanishing, the sanatorium a labyrinth that didn't want to let them go. Sarah felt the breath on her neck again, now accompanied by a whisper. Her name, spoken in a voice that wasn't human, low and wet, like it came from drowning lungs. Ethan saw the bare feet again, now joined by others, a crowd of gray limbs. In the shadows, their movements jerky, unnatural. Mia dropped her notebook, its pages scattering like leaves, but she didn't stop to grab it. She couldn't. Not with the air itself pressing against her, heavy with malice. They didn't stop until they burst through a side door, collapsing in the wet grass, the sanatorium looming behind them, its windows dark but watchful, like the eyes of a predator. They made it to their car, peeling out of the gravel lot, the sanatorium shrinking in the rearview mirror, but its shadow clung to them. They drove back to Cincinnati in silence, the GoPro footage too raw to watch, their hands still shaking. Let's pause here. Imagine you're them, your heart pounding, your mind racing, the memory of that lullaby burning in your ears. What would you do? Hold that thought, because their story doesn't end with their escape. It gets worse. Jake, Sarah, Ethan, and Mia weren't the first to face Waverly's horrors, and they won't be the last. The sanatorium has a long history of breaking those who enter. Let's start with Lisa, a paranormal investigator who conducted an overnight lockdown in 2015. Lisa was a veteran with a decade of ghost hunting experience, having investigated asylums, prisons, and battlefields without flinching. But Waverly was different. She set up motion sensors in the death tunnel, hoping to catch evidence of activity. At 2:17 a.m., her sensors went wild, triggered by something moving in the dark, though her team was stationed elsewhere. Her audio recorder captured a child's laughter, high and playful, followed by the sound of small feet running past her equipment, their patter echoing in the concrete tunnel. Her EMF meter spiked to 50 milligauss, levels associated with strong paranormal activity, and her night vision camera caught a shadow, small, human-shaped, darting across the tunnel's mouth, its edges blurring like smoke. Lisa, who'd laughed off lesser hauntings, packed her gear and left at 3 a.m., her team trailing behind. She later told a podcast, "It wasn't just a ghost. It was angry, like we'd trespassed on its home." She hasn't returned to Waverly since. Then there's Carlos, a Louisville local who sneaked into Waverly on a dare in 2009. He was 19, cocky, armed only with his cell phone's flashlight, thinking he'd impress his friends with some creepy photos. He made it to the surgical ward, where he found an old operating table, its leather straps still intact, stained with something that wasn't rust, dark, sticky, smelling of iron. As he took a photo, his phone's flash illuminated something. Behind the table, a man in a doctor's coat, his face hollow, his eyes sunken into black pits, his mouth open in a silent scream. Carlos ran. his phone still snapping photos automatically, each one showing the doctor closer, his hands outstretched, his fingers long and skeletal. The final photo, taken as Carlos reached the exit, showed the doctor inches from the lens, his face filling the frame, his eyes glinting like wet stones. Carlos burned the phone in his backyard, moved to Tennessee, and refuses to talk about Waverly, except to tell his cousin. It followed me for months. I still hear his footsteps. Next, we have Emily, a volunteer tour guide who worked at Waverly in 2020, leading nighttime tours for brave tourists. During one tour on a foggy November night, she guided a group of 12 through the 3rd floor, where the children's ward once housed young TB patients, many orphaned by the disease. Her battery-powered lantern, reliable for months, went out without warning at 11:43 p.m., plunging them into darkness. The group froze, their whispers turning to gasps as they heard a woman's voice call their names, one by one. Michael, Jessica, Emily. From the shadows, clear and deliberate, like a roll call. Emily felt a hand brush her shoulder, cold as ice, its fingers lingering, pressing into her skin. She fumbled with the lantern, her hands shaking, and when it flickered back on, the group was alone, their faces pale, their eyes wide. Later, their photos from that night showed a faint, translucent figure standing among them, its face featureless, its outline shimmering like heat waves. Emily quit the next day, started a blog warning people to stay away, writing, "Waverly doesn't just haunt you, it knows you." Then there's Marcus, a security guard hired in 2013 to patrol Waverly's grounds, keeping out trespassers. One night, at midnight, he saw a light in a 5th-floor window, a room that was boarded up, inaccessible, its stairs collapsed years ago. Thinking it was vandals, he entered the building, climbing to the 5th floor through a maze of debris. The room was empty, its boards intact, but the air was freezing, his breath clouding despite the warm summer night. His flashlight caught a child's handprint on the wall, fresh, as if pressed moments ago, its fingers small but elongated, unnatural. As he stared, he heard a giggle behind him, sharp and close, followed by a tug on his jacket, like a child pulling for attention. He spun around, nothing. His radio, clipped to his belt, started playing static, laced with a child's voice saying, "Stay." Marcus bolted, leaving his radio behind, and quit on the spot. He later learned the 5th floor was where orphaned TB children were kept, many dying alone, their bodies wheeled to the death tunnel without ceremony. Finally, there's Rachel, a college student who visited Waverly in 2016 with her paranormal research club. They set up in the death tunnel, armed with spirit boxes and thermal cameras, hoping to contact the spirits. At 1:22 a.m., their spirit box, a device that scans radio frequencies for voices, started spitting out words. Pain, cold, stay. Rachel's thermal camera showed a cold spot moving toward them, human-shaped, its edges blurring. Then the tunnel's lights, long dead, flickered on, casting a sickly yellow glow. Rachel felt a hand grab her wrist, ice cold, leaving a bruise that lasted weeks. The group fled, their equipment left behind. Rachel dropped out of the club saying, "Waverly's not haunted, it's cursed." These stories aren't outliers. Online forums like Reddit and X are flooded with Waverly accounts, explorers hearing voices, seeing figures, feeling touches in empty rooms. A 2017 study by the Kentucky Paranormal Society logged over 200 reports, from EVPs to scratches appearing, on skin. Waverly's not just a building, it's a magnet for the unexplained. So what's going on here? Let's unpack what's happening at Waverly Hills. Dr. Helen Voss, a parapsychologist from Chicago, has studied Waverly for 15 years. She calls it a residual haunting, a place where intense emotions like fear, pain, and despair imprint on the environment, replaying like a broken record. The footsteps, the lullaby, The shadows? They're echoes of the sanatorium's past, trapped in its walls. Voss points to the death tunnel as a hotspot, where thousands of bodies were wheeled through, their terror soaking into the concrete. She's recorded EVPs there, including one from 2019 that says, "I'm still here," in a man's voice, clear as day, with no living source. But not everyone buys the residual theory. Clara Bennett, a Louisville medium, says Waverly's more than an echo. It's a psychic vortex, a portal where spirits are drawn and held, unable to move on. She's held seances in room 502, claiming to contact Mary Hillenberg, who spoke of betrayal and rage, not just grief. Bennett believes Mary's spirit isn't alone. Darker entities feed on Waverly's energy, manifesting as the nurse, the doctor, the children. She warns visitors, don't go to room 502. It's not just Mary watching you. It's something else, wearing her face. Her 2021 seance recorded a growl, not human, shaking the room. Skeptics have a different take. Dr. Michael Tran, a neurologist at the University of Kentucky, argues Waverly's phenomena are psychological. The sanatorium's environment, dark, decaying, filled with relics like gurneys and straitjackets, triggers the brain's fear response, especially in groups primed for ghosts. Add sleep deprivation, adrenaline, and group dynamics, and you get hallucinations. Tran points to infrasound, low-frequency vibrations from the building's structure, as a culprit, causing unease, nausea, even visions. In 2019, he tested Waverly's acoustics, finding infrasound levels at 19 Hz, high enough to mess with perception. But that doesn't explain the GoPro footage, the EVPs, or why so many report the same details. The lullaby's melody, the nurse's tilted head, the smell of antiseptic in room 502. There's a wilder theory, from local historian James Carter, who's dug through Waverly's archives. He claims the sanatorium was a site of unauthorized experiments in the 1950s, possibly a cult. A 1953 logbook, now missing, mentioned a Dr. Ellison conducting special treatments in the basement. Rituals, not medicine, involving symbols, chants, and attempts to contact the other side. Carter says these experiments opened a door, letting something in that's still there. The symbols Mia saw in her notebook, sketched from memory, match carvings found in the basement by other explorers, jagged spirals and eyes that seem to watch. It's fringe, but Carter's convinced. Waverly's not just haunted. It's a wound. In reality, the data backs up the weirdness. A 2020 report by the American Paranormal Society ranked Waverly among the top 10 haunted sites in the U.S., with over 1,000 documented incidents since 2000. EVPs, apparitions, physical attacks. The lullaby, the footsteps, the nurse. They're not just stories. They're shared experiences, from skeptics to believers, all shaken. So, what happened to our group after they escaped? Pause the video right now and tell me in the comments. Would you spend a night in Waverly Hills? Picture it. You're in room 502. The lullaby starts. The rope sways. Do you run, or do you stay and face it? If you've visited Waverly or know someone who has, share your story. I'm reading every comment. And here's a poll for you. Is the nurse in room 502 Mary Hillenberg, a residual echo, or something darker, like Clara Bennett says? Drop your vote below, and I'll pin my favorite comment. Oh, and if you're watching this alone, maybe check behind you. Just saying. Jake, Sarah, Ethan, and Mia made it out of Waverly. But they weren't the same. They drove back to Cincinnati in silence, the GoPro footage too raw to touch, their hands still trembling like leaves in a storm. When they finally watched it, the video was mostly corrupted. Hours of static, pixelated noise, except for those frames of the nurse. Her face clearer in some shots, her eyes black, her mouth slightly open, as if singing, her gown stained with streaks that looked like blood or ash. Jake, desperate for answers, posted snippets on a Reddit thread, hoping someone could explain it. The comments exploded. 10,000 views in a day, a mix of awe and warnings. You stirred something up. Burn the footage. She's not human. One user, in Shadow Seer, claimed to have seen her too in 2014, and warned, "She follows. You now." Jake deleted the post, but the video spread, shared on X, TikTok, even dark web forums. He couldn't escape it. Sarah was hit hardest. She had nightmares for months, always the same. A woman in white at the foot of her bed, singing the lullaby, her face hidden by shadows, her hands reaching, cold as ice. In the dreams, the woman's touch burned, leaving Sarah waking in a sweat, her sheets tangled, her heart pounding. She started sleeping with every light on, but the dreams didn't stop. Worse, she felt watched, even in daylight, her skin prickling like someone was standing behind her. One morning, she found scratches on her arms, faint red welts, like fingernails, though she lived alone. She saw a therapist who called it PTSD, but Sarah insisted it was more. She told Jake, "It's her. She knows my name." 6 months later, Sarah moved to Chicago, cut contact, and last anyone heard, she was seeing a priest clutching a rosary, refusing to say the word Waverly. Ethan the skeptic tried to bury it. He went back to his biology classes, cracked jokes, acted like nothing happened. But he couldn't sleep. Every night, at 3 a.m., he heard footsteps in his apartment, slow and deliberate, stopping just outside his bedroom door. He set up a webcam, hoping to debunk it, but the footage showed nothing. Just darkness, the room empty. The audio, though, caught a faint tap, 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 like bare feet on hardwood, clear as day. Ethan moved to a new place, but the footsteps followed, always at 3 a.m., sometimes joined by a cough, wet and rasping, like a TB patient's. He stopped talking to the group, saying he needed to forget Waverly. But Jake found his X account, where Ethan was researching paranormal cleansings, posting, "How do you make it stop?" He hasn't posted since 2020. Mia, the quiet artist, was the strangest case. She stopped exploring, stopped drawing, stopped talking about Waverly. She told Jake she felt marked, like something had latched onto her in room 502, its presence heavy, like a hand on her shoulder. A week later, she found her notebook, the one she dropped in the sanatorium, on her desk, though she'd left it behind. Its pages were filled with sketches she didn't remember drawing. The nurse, her face twisted, her eyes black. The rope, knotted and swaying. Those symbols from the walls, spirals and eyes, drawn in black ink, precise and sharp. Mia burned the notebook, watched the flames curl, but the sketches reappeared in her other sketch pads. Always in black, always perfect. She moved to her parents' house in Dayton, locked her art supplies away, but Jake got a call from her mom. Mia was seeing a priest, claiming she saw the nurse in her mirror, whispering her name. Last anyone heard, Mia was in therapy, refusing to touch a pencil, saying, "It draws through me." Jake kept the GoPro, locked in a metal box in his closet, but he swears it turns on by itself, recording static and whispers, sometimes a faint lullaby. He's tried to move on, got a job editing commercials, but he's obsessed, scouring forums for others who've seen the nurse. He found a 2016 post by an explorer, lost in Waverly, describing the same figure, the same lullaby, the same black eyes. The account was deleted days later, the user gone. Jake's convinced Waverly's a trap, pulling people in, marking them for something he can't name. He emailed me last year, sharing his story, ending with, "Tell people to stay away. It's not worth it. It knows you're coming." That's the end of our first story, but it's just the beginning of the nightmare. Waverly Hills is a warning. Some places hold their pain like a grudge, and they don't let go. If you're feeling uneasy, you're not alone. I'm right there with you. We've got 4 more stories to go, each one darker, each one closer, to the edge of what we can explain. Grab a snack, check the comments, and meet me back here. We're heading to Scotland next, to a castle with a secret so terrifying, it curses anyone who learns it. You ready? Story 2. The Cursed Manor of Glamis. Castle Glamis Castle is a place where beauty hides terror. Nestled in the misty hills of Angus, Scotland, this 14th century fortress is a fairy tale brought to life: turrets, gargoyles, sprawling gardens. It's the ancestral home of the Earls of Strathmore, the birthplace of Princess Margaret, a symbol of Scottish pride. But beneath its grandeur lies a darkness, a secret so horrifying it's said to curse anyone who learns it. For centuries, whispers have haunted Glamis, of a monstrous child, a hidden room, a truth that drives men mad. Our story comes from Alistair, a groundskeeper who worked at Glamis in 2005, and stumbled into something he was never meant to see, something that followed him to his grave. Glamis Castle has stood for over 600 years, a witness to Scotland's bloodiest chapters. It's tied to Macbeth, yes, Shakespeare's Macbeth, whose real-life counterpart, King Malcolm II, was murdered here in 1034, his blood staining the stone floors. In the 16th century, Glamis was a stronghold during clan wars, its dungeons packed with prisoners who begged for death. By the 19th century, it was the seat of the Bowes-Lyon family, wealthy, powerful, and secretive. That's when the darkest legend took root. The monster of Glamis, a deformed heir born in the 1820s, hidden to protect the family's honor. The story, passed through whispers, says he was Thomas, son of the 11th Earl, born so grotesque, limbs twisted, face inhuman, that he was locked in a secret room, fed through a slot, his existence erased from records. The monster's tale isn't just gossip. In 1870, a lawyer named Frederick Lyon, tasked with reviewing the family's estate, stumbled on papers hinting at a living heir no one acknowledged. He pressed the Earl, who turned pale, saying, "You must never speak of it." Lyon left. Glamis, shaken, died months later, raving about a creature in the walls. Servants told similar stories. A maid in 1845 saw a door she wasn't meant to, heard moans, and was banished to Australia. A butler in 1890 found a hidden passage, quit, and drowned himself days later. The family denied it all, but the secret grew, fueled by other hauntings. Lady Janet Douglas, burned as a witch in 1537 for plotting against King James V. Seen wandering the halls, her screams echoing. A grey lady haunts the chapel, her prayers, a whisper. A child's ghost plays in the nursery, though no child has lived there since 1900. Glamis's history is a tapestry of violence and secrecy. In the 1600s, it was a hotspot for witch trials. Dozens burned in the nearby village, their curses aimed at the castle. Clan feuds left bodies in the moors, some said to rise at night, their armor clanking. By the 20th century, Glamis was a tourist draw, but staff whispered of locked rooms, footsteps at midnight, and a chill that wasn't natural. A 1923 article in The Scotsman called it Scotland's most cursed castle, citing 50 unexplained deaths tied to the estate. Servants, guests, even an earl who learned too much. The Bowes-Lyons kept silent, but the castle's walls seemed to speak, their stones heavy with secrets. This is the world Alistair walked into, thinking he knew what to expect. Alistair's story isn't alone. Glamis has broken countless others, maids who saw too much, tourists who felt watched, even family members who fled. The castle's records, partially declassified in the 1990s, hint at unusual expenses for a private ward in the 1800s, with no patient named. A 1904 guest book lists a visitor who wrote, "Heard it weeping, God save this house," then scratched out his name. Paranormal investigators, like the Scottish Ghost Society, have recorded EVPs in the castle, moans, knocks, a child's voice, saying, "Find me." Glamis isn't just haunted, it's a prison, holding something that wants out. Let's dive into Alistair's story and brace yourself. It's a descent into madness. Alistair McDougall was a no-nonsense man, born in a village 5 miles from Glamis, raised on tales of the castle's ghosts but never buying them. He'd worked as a groundskeeper since 2000, tending the gardens, repairing walls, checking the castle's interior for storm damage. To him, Glamis was just a job. Stone, wood, and history, nothing more. The monster? Lady Janet? Tourist bait? Nothing else. But on November 12th, 2005, a storm hit Angus, one of the worst in decades. Rain lashed the castle, thunder shook its towers, and lightning lit the hills like a battlefield. Alistair was called in at 6 p.m., grumbling but loyal, to check the east wing, a section closed to the public, rarely visited, its rooms locked since the 1970s. The east wing was a labyrinth, narrow halls twisting, doors bolted, the air heavy with mold and something sharper, like old blood. Alistair moved methodically, checking windows, running his hand along walls, his flashlight catching glints of dust motes and spider webs. Portraits lined the halls, Bose lions with stern faces, their eyes seeming to follow him, their lips curled in secrets. He reached a corridor he didn't recognize, though he'd mapped the wing a dozen times. Tucked behind a tapestry, a hunting scene, its stag bleeding, was a door, old, iron-bound, no lock, just a rusted bolt, its surface etched with faint symbols, spirals and eyes, barely visible. It wasn't on any blueprint, and Alistair, practical but curious, felt a pull, like the door wanted him to find it. He slid the bolt back, the metal cold, sticking, as if resisting. The door opened to a narrow staircase, descending into darkness, its steps stone, worn smooth, slick with damp. The air was foul, a mix of decay and something metallic, like blood or rust, stinging his nose. Alistair's flashlight flickered, its beam weakening, though he'd checked the batteries that morning. He hesitated, his gut screaming to turn back. But curiosity, dangerous, reckless, pushed him down. Each step creaked, the walls closing in, the symbols from the door repeating, carved deeper, glowing faintly in the dark. At the bottom was a stone chamber, small, circular, its walls slick with black mold, the air so thick it choked him. In the center sat a child's rocking chair, its wood blackened, carved with the same symbols, spirals, eyes, jagged lines that seemed to shift, crawling in his vision. The chair was moving, just enough to notice, a slow rock, though the air was still, no draft to stir it. Alistair's heart pounded, his flashlight shaking, its beam stuttering. The symbols on the chair seemed to watch him, their eyes glinting, alive. Then he heard it, a low, guttural moan, like an animal in pain, but human, broken, coming from the shadows behind him. He spun, his flashlight catching a glimpse of something. A shape, hunched, malformed, its limbs too long, its movements jerky, like a spider scuttling. Its skin was gray, patchy, its eyes black voids, its mouth open. Drooling. It wasn't a child, but it wasn't a man. It was wrong, a thing that shouldn't exist. Alistair screamed, the sound swallowed by the chamber, and ran, the moan rising, becoming a shriek, chasing him up the stairs. He reached the door, slamming it shut, his hands trembling as he forced the bolt back, the metal screeching. The shriek stopped, but the air was heavier, the corridor colder, the tapestry's stag now staring at him, its eyes black. Alistair ran, the castle's halls twisting, doors he knew gone, others open, revealing glimpses of figures, gray, eyeless, watching. He didn't stop until he was outside, collapsing in the rain, the castle looming, its windows flickering like eyes. That night, he dreamed of the chamber, the chair not empty. A figure sat in it, a child, but not a child, its skin gray, its limbs twisted, its eyes black, its mouth stretching, speaking his name. Alistair, in a voice that clawed his mind. Alistair quit the next day, his resignation scrawled on a napkin, his hands shaking. He told his story to a local historian, Ewan Fraser, who turned pale, warning him, "Never speak of it again. It hears you." Fraser hinted at the monster's truth. A child born of incest, hidden to save the family, its spirit now a vengeful force tied to the castle's curse. Alistair moved to Edinburgh, but the dreams followed, growing worse. He saw the child in mirrors, in crowds, always closer, its eyes boring into him. He stopped sleeping, his health crumbling, his skin graying, his eyes sinking. In 2007, he vanished, leaving a note. "It knows my name. I'm sorry." His body was never found, but villagers swear they hear moans near Glamis at night, calling Alistair's name. Alistair's not alone. Glamis has claimed others, their stories echoing his. First there's Fiona, a maid in 1998, cleaning the castle's library late at night. She found a hidden panel behind a bookshelf, its wood carved with the same symbols Alistair saw. It opened to a small room, empty except for a single candle, burning, though no one had been there in years. As she stared, the flame flared, blinding, and a child's voice whispered, "Stay." Fiona screamed, the panel slamming shut, the candle gone when she looked again. She quit that day, moved to Glasgow, but told friends the flame followed her in dreams, growing brighter, burning her skin. She died in 2001, a house fire, her body untouched but her eyes wide, staring. In 2012, David, a tourist from London, took a photo in Glamis's chapel during a daytime tour. When he reviewed it, a figure stood behind his group, a woman in a gray dress, her face blurred, her hands clasped as if praying. No one saw her during the tour, but locals identified her as the Grey Lady, Lady Janet Douglas, burned in 1537. David posted the photo online, sparking debate, but he started feeling watched, his camera malfunctioning, spitting out images of the woman, closer each time. He destroyed the camera, but the feeling lingered, his sleep plagued by screams. He told a friend, "She's in my house now," and moved to Canada, refusing to visit old buildings. Then there's Peter, a groundsman in 1985, working the castle's courtyard. He heard knocking from below, faint but rhythmic, like Morse code. Thinking it was pipes, he ignored it, but it followed a pattern, repeating nightly. He recorded it, and a friend, ex-military, translated it. "Help me." Peter, shaken, searched the courtyard, finding nothing but a well, its water black, reflecting a child's face when he leaned over, its eyes empty. He quit, moved to Aberdeen, but told co-workers he heard the knocking in his dreams, always at midnight, joined by a giggle. He died in 1990, a heart attack, his face frozen in terror. Margaret, a visitor in 2000, felt a child's hand grab hers in the nursery, though she was alone. The hand was cold, small, but strong, pulling her toward a locked door. She screamed, the hand vanishing, but her wrist bore red marks, like burns. She fled, telling staff, who shrugged, saying, "The nursery's always cold." Margaret later found her hotel room's mirror fogged, a child's handprint pressed into it, too small to be hers. She never returned to Scotland, warning friends, Glamis isn't empty. Finally, Ian, a caretaker in 2010, saw a figure in the dungeon, hunched, gray, scuttling like Alistair's creature. He dropped his tools, ran, but heard it following, its claws scraping stone. He quit, told a pub crowd. It wasn't human. It smelled like death. Ian moved to Ireland, but locals say he checks his locks nightly, muttering about eyes in the dark. These accounts aren't random. The Scottish Ghost Society's 2018 report logged 300 incidents at Glamis: EVPs, apparitions, physical marks. Tourists post photos with unexplained figures, staff quit without notice, and the Bowes Lions stay silent. What's behind it? What's haunting Glamis? Angus MacLeod, a paranormal researcher, calls it a spiritual prison, trapping souls like the monster and Lady Janet. He points to the castle's violent past, murders, witch trials, clan wars, as fuel for a malevolent energy concentrated in hidden rooms. MacLeod's team recorded an EVP in 2020, a voice saying, "Cursed, clear, and angry." He believes the monster's spirit, born of shame and pain, anchors the haunting, its rage growing with each visitor who seeks it. Fiona Grant, an occultist, goes darker. She claims the monster isn't human, but a demonic entity, summoned by the Bowes Lions in the 1700s to guard their wealth. A 1790 journal, found in Edinburgh, mentions a ritual in Glamis's crypt, led by an earl, symbols carved in blood. Grant says the entity took the form of a child, binding itself to the castle, cursing those who learn its name. Her 2022 ritual to banish it failed, her candles extinguishing, her arm scratched with symbols matching Alistair's. Skeptics, like Dr. Laura Hensley, a psychologist, argue it's folklore and psychology. Glamis's Gothic atmosphere, dark, ancient, steeped in legend, triggers confirmation bias, making visitors see what they expect. The symbols? Pareidolia, the brain seeing patterns, the moans, wind in old stone. Hensley's 2019 study on group dynamics at haunted sites found 80% of Glamis visitors reported unease before entering, priming them for fear. But she can't explain the EVPs, the scratches, or why the symbols appear across centuries. A fringe theory, from historian Moira Campbell, ties Glamis to a 1600s cult, the Order of the Black Thorn, who used the castle for blood rituals, carving symbols to summon a guardian. Campbell's 2021 book, Glamis Unraveled, cites a lost Strathmore letter describing a child of the pit born after a ritual, hidden to avoid God's wrath. The cult's symbols match Alistair's, and Campbell believes their rites tore a veil, letting something through. It's out there, but the letter's disappearance fuels speculation. The evidence is compelling. A 2023 Ghost Society report noted 400 incidents, with EVPs, photos, and physical marks consistent across decades. The symbols, moans, and child's presence repeat, defying logic. Glamis isn't just a castle, it's a trap holding something, ancient and angry. Stop the video and comment. Do you think the monster of Glamis is real, a family scandal, or a demon like Fiona Grant says? If you were Alistair, would you have gone down those stairs knowing what waited? Share your thoughts. I'm reading everyone. And here's a poll. Is Glamis cursed, haunted, or just creepy? Vote below, and I'll shout out the best comments. If you've been to Glamis or know a castle story, spill it. And if you're alone, maybe don't look at the mirrors tonight. One last thing. I found an X post from 2024 by Our Angus Ghost, claiming they saw a child's face in Glamis's well, its eyes black, whispering their name. They deleted it hours later, but I saved the screenshot. Want me to share it in the next video? Comment, show it, and I will. Let's see what happened to Alistair after he fled. Alistair's life unraveled after Glamis. He fled to Edinburgh, rented a cramped flat, and avoided old friends, his face gaunt, his eyes darting. The dreams came nightly, the child in the chair, its voice rasping his name, its limbs stretching, reaching through the walls. He saw it in waking life, glimpses in mirrors, shadows in alleys, always closer. His neighbor, Mrs. Kerr, told police he'd scream at night, shouting, "It sees me!" He tried charms, salt, iron, holy water, but nothing worked. In June 2007, he vanished, his flat empty, a note scrawled on the wall. "It knows my name. I'm sorry." Police found no trace, but villagers near Glamis swear they hear moans at dusk, a voice calling Alistair, faint but clear. Glamis remains a mystery. The Bowes Lions deny the monster, sealing rooms, limiting access. But the hauntings persist. Footsteps, moans, sightings of a twisted figure. Tourists report unease, staff quit, and the castle's silence speaks louder than words. Alistair's story is a warning. Some secrets curse those who find them. We're not done. 3 more stories, each creepier, each closer to the abyss. Let's head to a city frozen in time, where radiation isn't the only thing that lingers. Story 3. The ghost town of Pripyat, Ukraine, is a city frozen in time, a relic of human ambition and catastrophe. Built in 1970 to house workers, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, it was a Soviet dream. Modern apartments, schools, a theater, an amusement park ready for its grand opening. But on April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 exploded, the worst nuclear disaster in history, and Pripyat was abandoned overnight, its 50,000 residents fleeing with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Today, it's a radioactive ghost town, reclaimed by nature, and something else, something that watches from the shadows. Our story comes from Katya, a photographer who visited Pripyat in 2019, chasing beauty in decay, and found more than she bargained for, a presence that still haunts her. To grasp Pripyat's horror, you need to understand Chernobyl. In the early hours of April 26, 1986, a safety test at Reactor 4 went catastrophically wrong. A power surge triggered an explosion, tearing the reactor apart, releasing a radioactive cloud that spread across Europe. Pripyat, just 2 miles away, was hit hardest. Residents weren't told the truth. Soviet officials downplayed the disaster, delaying evacuation for 36 hours. By April 27th, buses arrived, and 50,000 people left, told they'd return in days. They never did. Pripyat became a no-man's land, its homes, schools, and hospital left to rot, radiation seeping into the soil, the air, the water. The official death toll is 31, but estimates run into the tens of thousands: cancer, birth defects, and lives cut short. Pripyat's story is one of hubris, secrecy, and loss, a city preserved like a snapshot, its silence deafening. Pripyat wasn't just abandoned, it was frozen. Apartments still hold family photos, children's drawings pinned to walls, clothes in closets. The hospital's maternity ward has cribs, their blankets stiff with dust, IV drips dangling. The amusement park's Ferris wheel, never used, creaks. In the wind, its yellow cabins faded to gray. Schools are littered with gas masks, a grim reminder of the fallout. Radiation lingers, Geiger counters screaming near the reactor. But nature has reclaimed the city. Wolves roam the streets. Trees burst through concrete. Moss blankets cars. Yet locals and visitors whisper of more than nature. Shadows move in. Windows, giggles echo in empty halls, and objects shift when no one's looking. A 1995 report by a Ukrainian scientist noted anomalous activity in Pripyat. Lights flickering, voices on dead radios, shapes in the fog. By the 2000s, Pripyat became a dark tourism hotspot. Guided tours, tightly controlled, let visitors glimpse the ruins, but guides warn. Stick to the path. Don't touch anything, and leave before dusk. Locals claim the city changes at night, the air growing heavy, the silence breaking with whispers, footsteps, even music from long-dead radios. A 2010 Kiev Post article, Pripyat's Ghosts, cited 100 reports of paranormal activity, tourists seeing figures, hearing cries, feeling watched. Some blame radiation, warping perception, but others say the disaster tore a veil, trapping souls in the city's ruins. This is the world Katya entered, her camera ready, her heart open, unaware of what waited. Katya's story isn't unique. Pripyat has haunted countless others, guides, scientists, explorers, all shaken by something they can't explain. A 2015 study by the Ukrainian Paranormal Association logged 200 incidents, from EVPs to physical touches. The city's decay is a canvas for fear, but the consistency of reports, giggles, shadows, a child's voice, suggests something more. Let's dive into Katya's story, and hold on. It's a descent into a city that doesn't let go. Katya Volkov was a 27-year-old photographer from Kiev, drawn to abandoned places, their textures, their stories, the way decay held beauty. She'd shot factories, theaters, even a sunken village. Her work featured in galleries across Ukraine. Pripyat was her dream, a chance to capture a city untouched since 1986. On June 15, 2019, she joined a private tour, one of the few allowing extended access, her Nikon D850 loaded, her notebook filled with shot ideas. The group, 10 tourists, a guide named Eerie, was small, quiet, the air thick with anticipation. Eerie laid down rules. Stay together. Don't wander. Leave by 5 p.m. Katya nodded, but her mind was on the school, its classrooms frozen in time, perfect for her lens. The school was a 5-story relic, its windows shattered, ivy crawling through, cracks, the air smelling of dust, mold, and something acrid, like burnt metal. Inside, the halls were a maze, desks overturned, textbooks open to Soviet lessons, their pages yellowed, curling. Gas masks littered the floor, their rubber cracked, lenses fogged, a reminder of the panic after the meltdown. Katya broke from the group, Yuri's warnings fading as she chased a shot. A classroom with a blackboard, its chalk faded but legible. A child's drawing pinned to the wall, a crude figure with no face, just a smudge where eyes should be. Her camera clicked, the shutter loud in the silence, the air growing colder, her breath clouding, though it was June. Katya froze, her camera lowering, her heart racing. The giggle came again, closer, from the classroom's corner, where shadows pooled, thick and wrong. She aimed her flashlight, its beam trembling, revealing nothing but dust and debris. The drawing on the wall had changed. The faceless figure now had eyes, black and jagged, drawn in fresh chalk, the lines wet, glistening. She snapped a photo, her hands shaking, the flash blinding. And in that moment, she saw it. A silhouette, small, childlike, standing by the blackboard, its head tilted, its limbs too long, its movements jerky, like a marionette. The giggle turned to a hum, a Soviet lullaby, faint but clear, its notes twisting, wrong. She backed away, her boots crunching on glass, her flashlight flickering, its beam stuttering like her pulse. The hum grew louder, coming from all directions, the walls vibrating, dust falling from the ceiling. Her camera malfunctioned, the screen glitching, spitting out images of the figure, closer in each frame, its eyes boring into her, its mouth stretching, unnaturally wide. She ran, the hall stretching, doors she'd passed now locked, others open, revealing glimpses of more figures, gray, eyeless, watching from classrooms, their giggles joining the hum, a chorus of the lost. Her Geiger counter, clipped to her belt, went wild, its clicks a scream, though she was far from the reactor's core. Katya stumbled into the gymnasium, its floor warped, basketball hoops rusted, a lone ball rolling slowly, though no one touched it. The figures followed, their silhouettes in the doorways, their giggles now whispers, saying her name, Katya, Katya, soft but insistent, like a summons. She felt a hand brush her arm, cold, small, leaving a sting, like frostbite. Her camera kept shooting, its battery drained but still working, capturing the figures. Children, but not children. Their faces smudged, their eyes black, their mouths open, humming. She screamed, her voice swallowed by the city, and ran, the schools, halls twisting, the exit a faint light, unreachable. She didn't stop until she found Yuri. Her group pale, their eyes wide, shouting her name, pulling her to the bus. They left Pripyat as the sun set, the city's silhouette fading, but its grip held tight. Katya's photos, when she checked, were corrupted. Static. Noise. Except for those of the figure. Clear. Its eyes staring through the screen. Its mouth moving, as if still humming. She tried to delete them, but they reappeared, saved in folders she didn't create. Let's pause. Imagine you're Katya, your camera holding proof of something impossible, your name whispered in a dead city. What do? Hold that thought, because Pripyat wasn't done with her. Katya's story echoes others who've faced Pripyat's ghosts. First, there's Mark, a British tourist in 2017, exploring the hospital. He heard singing, a Soviet anthem, faint, coming from the maternity ward. He followed it, finding cribs, their blankets moving slightly, no wind. His phone recorded the singing, clear, with no source, and a whisper. Stay. Mark left, but the singing followed in dreams, waking him at 1:23 a.m., the time of the explosion. He sold his phone, moved to Spain, but told a friend, it's still singing. Anna, a filmmaker in 2021, shot a documentary in Pripyat's theater. Her recorder caught EVPs, children's voices saying, help us. Cold, clear despite the silence. Her camera showed a shadow, tall, eyeless, moving backstage. Anna fled, her footage aired on Ukrainian TV, sparking debate. She quit filmmaking, saying, Pripyat's not empty, it watches you. Victor, a guide in 2015, saw a worker's ghost in the reactor's shadow, his hazmat suit glowing faintly. His face burned. Victor felt a hand on his shoulder, heavy, hot, leaving a burn mark. He quit, moved to Lviv, but told tourists, he's still working, guarding the reactor. Elena, a scientist in 2018, tested radiation in Pripyat school. Her equipment glitched, showing impossible readings, negative radiation, then spikes. She felt watched, her hair pulled, her notes scattered. Elena retired, saying, science can't explain Pripyat. Paul, an explorer in 2020, found toys, moving in a kindergarten, blocks spelling stay. His flashlight died, but a glow illuminated a child's figure, its eyes black. Paul ran, never returned, posting, Pripyat's alive. These aren't isolated. The Ukrainian Paranormal Association's 2020 report logged 300 incidents, EVPs, sightings, physical marks. Pripyat's not just radioactive, it's a trap for the lost. What's haunting Pripyat? Dr. Ivan Petrov, a radiologist, says radiation causes hallucinations, warping brain function. His 2019 study found alpha particles in Pripyat's air, linked to visual distortions. But he admits EVPs and photos defy his theory, calling them anomalies. Sofia Volkov, a Kiev medium, calls Pripyat a spiritual wound, the disaster's trauma trapping souls, children, workers, mothers, their pain replaying. Her 2021 seance in the school contacted a girl, Anya, who said, it's cold, her voice on tape. Volkov believes the city's energy feeds a darker force, mimicking the dead. Dr. Maria Kuznetsov, a physicist, suggests quantum effects, radiation, bending time, replaying moments like a hologram. Her 2020 paper cites Geiger anomalies in Pripyat, but she can't explain the giggles or why names are whispered. A fringe theory from occultist Yuri Ivanov claims Chernobyl opened a portal, radiation amplifying a rift. He points to symbols, in Pripyat's ruins, matching ancient Slavic runes, carved post-disaster. His 2023 ritual failed, his team scratched, fleeing. The data's compelling. A 2024 Paranormal Association report logged 500 incidents, with EVPs, photos, and burns consistent. Pripyat's not just a ruin, it's a cage, holding something that knows you're there, Pause and comment. Are Pripyat's ghosts real, radiation tricks, or something darker? Would you walk its streets at night, knowing what Katya saw? Share your thoughts. And if you've been to Chernobyl, tell us. I'm reading everything. Poll. Ghosts, radiation, or a portal? Vote below, and I'll pin the best comment. If you're alone, maybe keep the lights on. I found an X post from 2023, a Pripyat watcher, claiming they saw a child's handprint on their bus window, appearing mid-tour, no kids nearby. They deleted it, but I have the screenshot. Comment, show it, for the next video. Let's see Katya's aftermath. Katya returned to Kiev, but Pripyat followed. Her photos corrupted, kept regenerating, the child's figure in every folder, its eyes tracking her. She sold her camera, but the giggles came at night, 1:23 a.m., joined by whispers. Katya, stay. She found handprints on her mirrors, small, cold, appearing after showers. Therapy didn't help. Her doctor called it trauma, but Katya insisted, it's here. She moved to Poland, burned her SD cards, but last anyone heard she was seeing a shaman, claiming the child's face appeared in her dreams, humming, its mouth stretching, calling her back. Pripyat's silence hides a presence, one that marked Katya and others. The city's ruins are a warning. Some disasters never end. 2 stories left, each darker. Next, an asylum where pain lingers and the ghosts don't forgive. Story 4. The Forgotten Asylum of Penhurst. State school and hospital is a monument to cruelty, a place where society hid its shame. Opened in 1908 in Spring City, Pennsylvania, it was built to house the feeble-minded, children and adults with disabilities, mental illnesses, or simply behaviors deemed unfit. Behind its grand facade, Penhurst was a nightmare, its halls filled with abuse, neglect, and experiments that broke the human spirit. Closed in 1987 after a public outcry, it was abandoned, its secrets locked away, but not silent. Shadows move in its wards. Cries echo at night. And those who enter feel a weight, like the past is watching. Our story comes from Rachel, a paranormal investigator who visited Penhurst in 2020 and brought something back with her. Penhurst was born of good intentions, or so they claimed. In the early 20th century, society didn't know how to handle disability or mental illness. Families, desperate or ashamed, sent their loved ones to places like Penhurst, promised care and education. Instead, they got a prison. By the 1920s, Penhurst housed 3,000 residents, far beyond its 500-bed capacity, in conditions that were medieval, filthy wards, no heat, patients chained to beds, some naked, shivering. Staff were undertrained, overwhelmed, often cruel. A 1915 report, buried until the 1990s, noted routine beatings and starvation diets to control behavior. Children as young as 4 were admitted, labeled imbeciles for epilepsy or autism, left to rot. The abuse wasn't just neglect, it was systematic. Doctors experimented, lobotomies, electric shocks, drugs like Thorazine, turning patients into shells. A 1950s logbook, found in Penhurst's ruins, detailed behavioral trials, injecting children with sedatives, some dying, their deaths marked natural. Whistleblowers like Nurse Mary Klein in 1965 reported patients beaten, with brooms, teeth knocked out, girls assaulted by orderlies. The 1968 expose by Bill Baldini shocked the nation. Footage of children rocking in filth, their cries ignored. One boy muttering, "I want my mom." Lawsuits followed, and Penhurst closed in 1987, its buildings left to decay, its pain seeping into the walls. Since its abandonment, Penhurst has drawn ghost hunters, explorers, and vandals, all reporting the same thing. It's not empty. Locals avoid it, claiming cries carry on the wind, lights flicker in sealed buildings, and figures watch from windows. A 1990 Philadelphia Inquirer article, Pennhurst's Ghosts, cited 50 sightings, patients in gowns, a nurse with no face, a child's handprint on a gate. Paranormal groups, like the East Coast Ghost Trackers, have recorded EVPs, screams, pleas, a voice saying, "Don't leave." Pennhurst's tunnels, where patients were hidden, are the worst. Their air heavy, their walls scratched with names. This is where Rachel walked, her gear ready, her courage tested. Rachel's not the only one Pennhurst marked. Dozens of stories, guards, tourists, investigators, describe the same cries, the same touches, the same dread. A 2018 Paranormal Society report logged 400 incidents, from EVPs to scratches. Pennhurst's pain didn't leave when the doors locked. It grew. Let's dive into Rachel's story and brace yourself. It's raw. Rachel Carter was a seasoned paranormal investigator, founder of Philly Ghost Seekers, with 10 years of hunts. Cemeteries, prisons, old homes, nothing fazed her. Pennhurst was her white whale, a chance to document its legends, maybe contact its lost souls. On October 10, 2020, she led her team through a legal overnight investigation, approved by Pennhurst's owners, who warned, "Stay out of the tunnels unless you're ready." Rachel laughed it off, her EMF meter charged, her spirit box ready, her GoPro rolling. Her team was tight. Mark on audio, Lisa on thermal, Tom on EVPs, but Pennhurst tested them all. They started in the administration building, its lobby grand but ruined, chandeliers dangling, files scattered, the air smelling of mold and medicine. The PI administration building was eerie, but quiet, their EMF meters flat, their spirit box silent. Rachel pushed deeper, into the Quaker building, a ward for children, its halls narrow, walls scratched with names, drawings of eyes, mouths, hands, some fresh, though no one had lived there in decades. The air was heavy, like breathing through cloth, the smell of antiseptic stinging, though no hospital had operated in years. Rachel's spirit box crackled, spitting out words. "Don't! Leave! Me!" Clear, urgent, a child's voice, high and scared. Her GoPro caught a cold spot, a blue mass on Lisa's thermal, human-shaped, moving toward them, then vanishing. Rachel's heart raced, but she pressed on, whispering, "Talk to us." Her voice steady, though her hands shook. They reached a classroom, its desks tiny, rusted, a chalkboard with faded words. "Be good." Rachel set up her recorder, asking, "Who's here?" The response was instant. A scream, raw, female, not from the box but the walls, vibrating the air, dust falling. Her EMF spiked to 60 milligauss, her flashlight flickered, and Lisa screamed, pointing to a shadow, tall, eyeless, in a nurse's uniform, standing by the door, its head tilted, its hands clasped, fingers too long. It vanished when Rachel turned, but the air grew colder, their breath clouding, the scream lingering, looping, like a record stuck. Rachel felt a touch on her neck, cold, sharp like a needle, leaving a sting she'd find later, red and raw. They moved to the tunnels, against the owner's warnings, drawn by stories of EVPs, scratches, apparitions. The entrance was a rusted grate, its bolts loose, the air below damp, smelling of earth and decay, like an open grave. The tunnels were narrow, concrete, their walls scratched with names, dates, pleas. Help. God. Mommy, carved deep, some bleeding water, red-tinted like blood. Rachel's spirit box went wild, voices overlapping. Stay. Hurt. Run. Male. Female. Child. All desperate. Her GoPro glitched, showing a figure, a girl in a hospital gown, her face bruised, her eyes empty, walking beside them, though the tunnel was empty. Rachel felt a hand grab her ankle, cold, strong, pulling. Her scream echoing, her team dragging her forward, the touch lingering, her ankle bruised, swollen. Panic took over. They ran, the tunnels twisting, lights flickering, their flashlights, dying, the air thick, pressing, like drowning in mud. Shadows moved in corners, figures, patients, nurses, children, watching, their eyes black, their mouths open, silent but screaming. Rachel's GoPro kept rolling, capturing glimpses. A boy, his arm broken, limping. A nurse, her face a void, pointing. A crowd, gray, eyeless, closing in. The screams grew, a chorus. Their names shouted, Rachel, Mark, Lisa, from the walls, the floor, the air. They found the exit, bursting into the night, collapsing on the grass. Penhurst's silhouette hulking, its windows glowing faintly, though no power ran to them. They drove away, Penhurst fading. But its weight stayed. Rachel's footage, when checked, was half static, but the figures were clear, their eyes staring, their mouths moving as if speaking. She tried to delete it, but it reappeared, saved in her cloud, her laptop, her phone. Let's pause. Imagine you're Rachel. Your footage proof of something alive in Penhurst. Your ankle bruised, your neck stinging. What do? Hold on, because it gets darker. Rachel's not alone. Penhurst has marked others. Their stories chillingly similar. Tom, a guard in 2018, saw a girl in the Mayflower building, her gown dirty, her eyes black, standing in a locked room. He heard her whisper, "Play," and felt a push, though no one was there. He quit, moved to Ohio, but told coworkers, "She's in my dreams, waiting." Sarah, a tourist in 2014, was pushed in the tunnels, her back bruised, her camera showing. A handprint, not hers. She heard cries, "Mommy," looping, and fled, never returning, posting. Penhurst's angry. James, an explorer in 2016, heard cries in the Devon building, a boy's voice, "Help me," clear, coming from a sealed ward. His flashlight caught a figure, small, crawling, its limbs twisted. He ran, his arm scratched, bleeding, and quit exploring, saying, "It wanted me to stay." Linda, a nurse in 1980, saw patients after closing, their faces gray, standing in empty halls, pointing at her. She quit, moved to Florida, but told a friend, "They're still there, watching." Mike, a visitor in 2019, was scratched in the tunnels, 3 lines down his back, burning, though his jacket was intact. He heard laughter, deep, not human, and fled, never returning, posting, "Penhurst's alive." These stories aren't random. The East Coast Ghost Tracker's 2021 report logged 500 incidents, EVPs, scratches, apparitions, all consistent. Penhurst's not just haunted, it's a battery, storing pain. What's haunting Penhurst? James Klein, a parapsychologist, calls it a trauma battery, the abuse and death imprinting on the environment, replaying like a loop. His 2019 investigation recorded EVPs. Help. No. Clear. Angry. Klein believes the tunnels amplify the energy, their isolation trapping souls. Dr. Emily Roth, a psychologist, says it's mass hysteria, Penhurst's reputation and decay triggering fear responses. Her 2020 study found 90% of visitors reported dread before entering, priming visions. But she can't explain EVPs or scratches appearing in sealed rooms. Maria Lopez, a medium, claims Penhurst's a portal, the experiment's tearing reality, letting entities through, mimicking patients. Her 2022 seance contacted a girl, Sarah, who said, "They hurt me," her voice on tape. Lopez was scratched, her arm bleeding symbols. A fringe theory, from historian Paul Evans, suggests Penhurst's doctors dabbled in occult rituals, using patients in the 1950s, symbols found in the tunnels matching Masonic rites. His 2021 book, Pennhurst Unveiled, cites a lost logbook mentioning soul trials. It's out there, but the symbols persist. The evidence is strong. A 2023 Paranormal Society report logged 600 incidents, with EVPs, scratches, and apparitions consistent. Pennhurst's pain is alive, marking those who enter. Pause and comment. Is Pennhurst haunted, tragic, or a portal? Would you walk its tunnels, knowing what Rachel felt? Share your thoughts, and if you've been to Pennhurst, tell us. I'm reading. All. Poll. Ghosts, trauma, or entities? Vote, and I'll pin the best comment. If you're alone, maybe check the doors. An ex-post from 2022, Pennhurst Truth, claimed they heard a scream in the tunnels, their flashlight showing a girl's face, eyeless in the beam. They deleted it, but I saved it. Comment "show it" for the next video. Let's see Rachel's aftermath. Rachel returned to Philly, but Pennhurst clung to her. Her footage, half static, kept regenerating, the girl's face in every frame, her eyes staring, her mouth moving as if pleading. She burned her SD cards, but the screams came at night, 3 a.m., joined by touches, cold, sharp, on her neck, her ankles, leaving welts. She found handprints on her windows, small, smudged, appearing after rain. Therapy called it PTSD, but Rachel said, "It's here." She moved to Colorado, left her gear behind, but last anyone heard, she was seeing a medium, claiming the girl's face appeared in her dreams, whispering, "Stay with me, Pennhurst's. Pain doesn't sleep. Its ghosts, real or not, mark those who enter, a reminder of cruelty's cost." One story left, and it's deep in a desert, where greed and death built a town that won't rest. Story 5. The haunted mine of Body Body, California, is a relic of greed and desperation, a gold rush town born in 1859, abandoned by the 1940s, when the mines ran dry. Its streets, preserved in a state of arrested decay, hold saloons, homes, a jail, all frozen in time. But Bodie's heart is its mines. Dark, twisting tunnels where men died for gold, their dreams buried in rock. Today, it's a state park, a tourist draw, but locals and rangers whisper of shadows in the shafts, taps echoing at night, a curse that claims those who dig too deep. Our story comes from Tom, a ranger who worked Body in 2017, and found something in the mines that changed him forever. Body was a wild place, born when William Bodie struck gold in 1859, drawing thousands to a desert hell. By the 1880s, it had 10,000 residents, 65 saloons, brothels, opium dens, a lawless town where murder was common, over 200 killings in 20 years, from bar fights to claim disputes. The mines were the heart, producing $35 million in gold, but at a cost. Cave-ins killed dozens, explosions maimed, toxic gases choked the careless. A 1878 Body Standard article reported 50 deaths in a year, bodies left in tunnels. Too costly to retrieve. Miners, desperate for wealth, worked 12-hour shifts, their lungs blackening, their minds breaking. Body's decline started in the 1900s. As gold dwindled, fires gutted the town, and residents fled. By 1942, it was empty, its mines sealed, its buildings left to rot. The state took over in 1962, preserving it as a park, but rangers reported oddities, tools moving, voices in empty houses, lights in sealed mines. Native Mono tribes whose land Body was built on called it cursed, claiming the mines angered spirits, their greed tearing the earth's soul. A 1890 tribal story, recorded by a missionary, spoke of a shadow man in the tunnels, claiming those who stole gold. Visitors today report unease, taps at night, and figures watching from mine entrances. Body's not just a ghost town, it's a graveyard. A 1995 ranger log noted 100 incidents, Footsteps, EVPs, apparitions, mostly near the Standard Mine, the deepest, deadliest shaft. Tourists post photos with shadows, rangers quit without explanation, and the mines stay sealed, their gates chained, warning signs faded but clear. Enter at your own risk. This is where Tom walked, his ranger duties pulling him into the dark. Tom's story isn't alone. Body has haunted others, miners, tourists, rangers, all touched by something in the mines. A 2019 California Paranormal Society report logged 200 incidents, from EVPs to physical attacks. Body's not just deserted, it's awake. Let's dive into Tom's story and hold tight. It's a deep, dark ride. Tom Hargrove was a body ranger for 5 years, a man of routine, used to the desert's silence, the town's decay. He'd heard the stories, ghosts, curses, the shadow man, but chalked them up to tourist hype, wind in old wood. His job was simple: check buildings, secure gates, keep vandals out. On August 3, 2017, a report came in. A hiker heard tapping. In the Standard Mine, loud, rhythmic, like a pickaxe. Though the mine was sealed, its entrance collapsed decades ago. Tom scoffed but grabbed his gear, his flashlight strong, his radio crackling, and headed to check, expecting nothing but echoes. The Standard Mine was a beast, 200 feet deep, its tunnels a maze, prone to cave-ins, abandoned since 1915 after a blast killed 20 men, their bodies left, too deep to recover. Tom found the gate ajar, chains loose, though he'd locked it days before. He radioed base, got static, shrugged, and entered, his boots crunching on gravel, the air cooling, the smell of earth and something sharp, like blood or sulfur, growing stronger. The tunnel narrowed, its walls scratched with names: Jim, 1880, God help, and symbols, circles with eyes, not on any map. His flashlight flickered, its beam weakening, though he'd swapped batteries that morning. The tapping grew louder, closer, coming from a side shaft, sealed with boards. Their wood splintered, fresh, as if broken hours ago. Tom called out, "Anyone there?" His voice swallowed, no echo, the air dead. The tapping stopped, replaced by a whisper. "Tom." Clear, male, rough, like a miner's growl. He froze, his flashlight shaking, catching a glimpse of something, a figure, gaunt, in a miner's helmet. Its face gray, its eyes black, its pickaxe raised, frozen mid-swing. The air grew heavy, his chest tight, his radio screaming static, a voice breaking through. "Get out," not his team's. He backed away, the figure stepping closer, its boots scraping, its breath rasping, like lungs full of dust. He ran, the tunnel twisting, boards snapping behind him, the tapping resuming. Now a chorus, picks striking stone, voices whispering, "Stay. Mine. Ours." Shadows. Moved in corners. Figures. Miners. Their faces burned, their limbs broken, watching, pointing. His flashlight died, plunging him into dark, but a glow, green, sickly, lit the tunnel, showing the miner, closer, his pickaxe swinging, inches, from Tom's back. He felt hands grab his shoulders, cold, strong, pulling, his skin burning, his scream raw, echoing. He stumbled to the gate, bursting into sunlight, collapsing, the mine's mouth dark, silent, the tapping gone, but the air heavy, watching. Tom radioed for help, his voice shaking, his team finding him pale, his shoulders bruised, hand-shaped marks red, raw. His flashlight, dead in the mine, worked outside, its batteries full. He refused to re-enter, his report scrawled, "Something's in there." That night, he dreamed of the miner, its face inches from his, whispering, "You're mine." Its breath like ash, its eyes boring into him. Let's pause. Imagine you're Tom, the mind's dark closing in, the miner's hands on you, its voice in your head. What do? Hold on, because Baudi's curse didn't let him go. Tom's not alone. Baudi's minds have haunted others, their stories chillingly similar. Lisa, a hiker in 2010, heard cries in the Cane mine. Help, male, desperate, echoing. She saw a shadow, tall, eyeless, its hand reaching. She ran, her arm scratched, bleeding, and never returned, posting, "Body's not empty." Mike, a ranger in 2019, saw a figure in the Red Cloud mine, its helmet glowing, its face burned. Pointing at him, he felt a push, his back bruised, and quit, saying, "It wanted me to stay." Sarah, a tourist in 2015, found tools moving in the Standard mine, picks swinging alone, tapping stone. Her flashlight caught a miner, his eyes black, his mouth open, silent. She fled, never returning, posting, "Bodies alive." John, an explorer in 2012, heard voices in the monomine. Gold, hours, clear, angry. His camera showed a figure, its face ash, its hands clawing. He quit exploring, saying, "It followed me home." Emma, a visitor in 2018, saw lights in the Standard mine, green, flickering, though no power ran there. She heard taps, felt a hand on her neck, cold, burning, and ran, posting, "Bodies cursed. These aren't random." The California Paranormal Society's 2022 report logged 300 incidents, EVPs, scratches, apparitions, all tied to the mines. Body's not just a town, it's a trap, holding greed's cost. What's haunting Body? Dr. Alan Chen, a geologist, says seismic activity creates hallucinations, low-frequency vibrations mimicking voices, taps. His 2020 study found micro-tremors in Bodie, but he can't explain EVPs or scratches appearing in sealed mines. Maria Lopez, a Mono elder, calls it a curse, the mines violating sacred land, angering spirits. Her 2021 ritual in Bodie contacted a miner, John, who said, "We took too much," his voice on tape. Lopez was pushed, her arm bruised by an unseen force. Dr. Sarah Klein, a physicist, suggests electromagnetic fields from ore deposits warp perception, creating visions. Her 2019 tests found EM spikes in the Standard mine, but she admits EVPs and photos defy her model. Occultist David Ruiz claims Bodhi's miners dabbled in rituals, using blood to find gold, symbols in the mines matching 1800s grimoires. His 2023 book Body's Shadow cites a lost diary, describing a pact in the Standard mine. It's fringe, but the symbols persist. The evidence is stark. A 2024 Paranormal Society report logged 400 incidents, with EVPs, scratches, and apparitions consistent. Body's mines are a prison, holding greed's price. Pause and comment. Are Body's ghosts real, seismic tricks, or a curse? Would you enter the Standard mine, knowing what Tom saw? Share your thoughts, and if you've been to Bodhi, tell us. I'm reading all. Poll. Ghosts, tremors, or spirits? Vote, and I'll pin the best comment. If you're alone, maybe avoid mirrors tonight. An ex-post from 2023, Our Body Wanderer, claimed they saw a miner's face in the Standard mine, its eyes black, whispering their name. They deleted it, but I saved it. Comment, show it, for the next video. Let's see Tom's aftermath. Tom quit Body, moved to Reno, but the mine followed. He dreamed of the miner nightly, its face close, whispering, "You're mine," its breath ash, its hands grabbing, leaving bruises on his shoulders, red, raw. He heard taps at night, 3 a.m., like picks on stone, his windows fogging, handprints appearing, large, calloused. Therapy called it trauma, but Tom said, "It's here." He moved to Oregon, burned his ranger gear, but last anyone heard, he was seeing a shaman, Claiming the miner's face appeared in his dreams, its pickaxe, raised, calling him back. Bodies' minds don't sleep. Their ghosts, real or not, claim those who enter, a reminder of greed's cost. We're at the end, but the shadows linger. Let's wrap this up. We've traveled through 5 abandoned places, each a wound in time, each holding secrets that don't rest. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, where the nurse's lullaby still sings, her grief a chain that binds. Glamis Castle, hiding a monster, its curse claiming those who seek it. Pripyat, a city frozen by disaster, its children's giggles echoing in the dark. Penhurst, an asylum of cruelty, its screams a reminder of shame. Body, a town built on greed, its minds tapping a warning to the living. These places aren't just ruins. They're alive, their pain, their rage, their loss woven into the walls, the air, the earth. They're proof that some things don't fade, some debts don't settle, some doors don't close. Let me share one more story, something personal to tie this together. Last summer, I visited a haunted bridge in my state, a place locals avoid, saying it's cursed. It was midnight, the air thick, the river below black, silent. I went alone, stupidly, my phone recording, my heart pounding. Halfway across, I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, matching mine, then stopping when I did. I turned, saw nothing but felt it. Eyes on me, close, cold, like a hand on my neck. My phone caught a whisper, "Stay." Not mine, not human. Ran, didn't look back, but the feeling followed for days. A weight, like I'd brought something with me. It's why I tell these stories, why I chase the dark, because it's real, and it's waiting. These places, Waverly, Glamis, Pripyat, Penhurst Body, they're not just stories. They're warnings etched in blood, stone, and ash. Now it's your turn. Comment below. Which story hit you hardest? Waverly's nurse, Glamis's monster, Pripyat's children, Penhurst's screams, or Body's miner? Share your own haunted place stories. If you loved this, smash that like button. It helps me keep digging into the dark. Subscribe and hit the bell, because you don't want to miss what's next. One last thing, and I'm whispering this because I'm not sure who's listening. These places, Waverly, Glamis, Pripyat, Penhurst, Bodie, they don't just hold ghosts. They hold us, our fears, our mistakes, our shadows. If you visit them or anywhere abandoned, be careful what you bring back. Check your doors tonight, your windows, your mirrors. Make sure they're locked. Make sure you're alone, because some places, they follow you home. Sleep tight, and I'll see you in the shadows.